Hello, good people. This is Nicole Rose. Thank you for joining Fretsisters Presents Between Frets, a space where female musicians who play stringed instruments meet and discuss all things music. On today's podcast, we have one of the founders, Genny Jam, who will be speaking to us today. She is a well-accomplished and well-respected guitarist. She is a self-taught musician who has a long career with recording artists such as Salt and Pepper, Quista Waters, High Five, Kiki Wyatt, Stevie Wonder, Erykah Badu, to name a few. Genny Jam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am great. I do want to thank you for joining us today. And let's just kick this off at the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tell the people your first guitar.
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know if I should say this because it's a little embarrassing, but it was an acoustic that my mom got me. And it's like one of those things that you get at the mall, like the stores in the mall where they have it, and it was like $70.
Oh, wow.
And it was all because I told her I wanted a guitar. So she was nice enough to even get me that. But this guitar was like so cheap. It had like an extra fret up at the nut. And but like for me, it was like it didn't matter. It was just a guitar, only because I didn't know what a guitar really was all about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was my first. But my really first nice one, I guess, would be the Fender Strat. Electric, yeah, where I actually put it on layaway and everything to get it. So, and I still have it too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It needs work. Needs work, but
hey, still keep it. That is awesome. Yeah. So, what was the artist or the artist that made you want to play guitar in the first place?
Well, it was kind of weird because like my family, they're from Ecuador, so they listen to a lot of Spanish music. So I really got most of like my influences from my sisters because they listen to a lot of rock and a lot of like the old classic rock bands. So they listen to a lot of Zeppelin, Beatles, Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd, and all the
classics.
And so they were playing the Pink Floyd album, which was The Wall, and that's a concept album. So it had like all this music, but it also had interludes in the middle. And there was this one interlude that had a classical guitar piece in it, and that's what got me. When I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn that song. I don't know, it just kind of sparked something in me, and so that's when I wanted to learn how to play. And that's when my mom got me the guitar. That's why she got me a guitar, because I made her do it. But yeah, it was crazy because I tried to teach myself that song all not even knowing what a guitar was.
That's great. Well, we're happy your mother did indeed get you that guitar.
Now, I know, really.
Age was this? When did you start actually playing and start, the self-teaching yourself how to play?
Well, I really didn't get full on serious until I was in high school. Like I was in my preteens. I grew up in Jersey, and that's where I had my dreams. I was dreaming of wanting to become a guitarist. But when I moved down to DC, that's where I was pursuing an instructor and really just going in and learning how to play and stuff. So it was about high school year, end of high school years, is when I first started playing.
Oh, that's great.
When I knew how to at least play something.
That is awesome. So were you playing at school at that time, or was this just, you were just practicing in your room and just listening to music?
It was more that, I wasn't gigging at that time. I went to my lessons and practiced. And then I would go out with friends and I would bring my guitar with me and I'd play for them. And, we kind of like play all the stuff that I knew that I was learning. So it was kind of like that at first,
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like a high school thing. After high school, you go bring your guitar, start jamming, that kind of thing.
So when did you have your first gig? Was it in high school? Was it much after?
No, it was after high school, pretty much. It was like pretty much a few years after I graduated. And the way that I did it was I there was a ad in the paper for somebody putting a female band together, and that's where I actually met a lot of the players, a lot of the female musicians in the area. But pretty much that's how it was. It was like getting together with these females and forming a group and going out and getting gigs and everything, what we could. So it was a good learning experience, definitely.
Oh, wow. So that
Yeah.
went from playing with friends and gigging. How did your first national or well-known gig or even tour even happen? How did that come about?
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I mean, I always tell people that I was like at the right place at the right time. And this was in the 90s, to go back where I was, starting out, and I landed a national gig. I was playing with a female go-go group called Pleasure. I just started with them, and we were playing around the city pretty much. And it's go-go music. It's a DC thing. So,
Oh, yes.
if you don't know, then check it out.
Chuck Brown.
Yep, Chuck Brown. Yep, Rare Essence, EU, Junkyard.
Yes.
I mean, they're the classic bands, right? So so there was the female band Pleasure, which is pretty well known too. A lot of people, I guess, who know go-go music know that Pleasure was like the first female band. So what happened is the rise of popularity, really hit us, which was cool. And we were doing venues where we were opening up for rap artists. So we were doing
wow.
big shows in the DC area. And so a lot of these shows, these rap artists would come down mostly from New York. It was mostly the New York crew. That's where a lot of those hip hop artists and rappers would go back up to New York and talk about us. And Salt and Pepper like put out a album then where they had a song that talked about an all-female band. So they were thinking they were going to promote that album, and what they wanted was to have an all-female band behind them. So while the producer Herbie was looking for a female band, he heard about us because everybody up there was talking about us in New York. So he came down. Yeah, he came down, saw us. We had a manager and stuff, and of course the manager was like, give me all this money, that kind of thing. So he went around. He went around the manager and got to the keyboard player and the drummer of the group that I was in, and said, I want to take you guys out on tour, but I can't take you with your manager. So we all had a meeting, and it was like, okay, so I want to take you guys. So whoever wants to go. And I was like, I'm there. It was just one of those things where it's like, you're young. Do you stay in DC and be loyal, or do you run off and go out on tour? And I'm like, I'm doing that.
Take me, I'll go.
Yep. So we hopped on with him, and from there it was just a ride. Like we were flown up to New York, did a lot of things. We went to parties, we did music videos with Salt and Pepper, to promote some of the new stuff, I guess, from this album, their singles coming out. And then we landed tours. We were doing, we went to Europe, Japan, all over the US. We even went to Brunei to do a command performance for the Sultan. It was actually the
Sultan?
The Sultan of Brunei.
Wow.
We went out there. Yeah, I mean, it was just an experience of my life, and we were with them for about 3 years. It was on and off touring, but that's what I did, was basically do that. And then that's where we landed other gigs, where we played for High Five, and we did the Arsenio Hall show. So all like the older people that know Arsenio back then in the 90s, I did 2 TV shows with them, one with Salt and Pepper, one with High Five. We, Sisters in the Name of Rap, I did that with Salt and Pepper and High Five. And then Crystal Waters pretty much grabbed the same unit, and we did a tour up and down the East Coast. So pretty much for like 4 years, I guess, in the 90s, that's what I did, basically. It was just like it was the best experience of my life. It was hard, and it wasn't like I was always, it wasn't like it was an easy thing, or it was, I mean, it was a job, and it was
Mm-hmm.
tough at times. But I will say that I'm so honored that I actually did something like that, and blessed that I did it. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was also a time where there was really female musicians weren't really known a lot back then, or really the time was a little different. So I could say that we were the first female band that actually went out on tour. I can say that because I can't really
That's
think of
amazing.
any full female band to actually back up an artist. Now I know there were female bands back then, like in rock and funk and everything like that, but a female band being hired to
Mm-hmm.
perform behind an artist to you see that a lot now.
Oh yeah.
But back then we were the only ones, you
Yeah.
know.
So
So
you had
yeah,
Beyonce's crew and all that, but you're one of the pioneers who really kicked that off.
yeah, we were the one. We were the ones that actually did it, and that started it. Really, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I'm like, no, we were, because people would scrutinize. That's the thing, is that because we were the first, or at least brand new in that field, we were scrutinized a lot. And I'm telling you, there were so many haters. So that's why I'm saying, with me, it was a great experience, but I also learned a lot and saw a lot, and that gave
Hmm.
me a lot of thick skin. So it was that kind of thing. I
Yes.
mean, it was hurtful sometimes. It wasn't fun at times, with just the backlash that you would get from certain people, or male musicians, or
Oh
just
yes, for
anybody.
sure.
It could even, but yeah. So I mean, I have my stories that I would always share to certain people that want to
Hmm.
hear, or that whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. I'm definitely,
But that's something
definitely,
that that people need to hear.
yeah,
Actually, the young people, the young women coming up, maybe you can give them this, they get some idea of what it's like. People may think it's all fun. You just go, you play, you laugh, and you go to the next gig, and it's not like there's actual work that you have to do to go on tour.
oh yeah, yeah. I know, yeah. It is work. It's yeah, you're touring, you're traveling, and you're seeing new things, but I mean, it's a rough life. I mean, you got to love the road to be able
Hmm.
to go out on tour and deal and be out for like a month and live on a
Hmm.
bus or live in hotels. That's just something. Some people can't handle that. Some people can. Some people may get too crazy, or some people
Hmm.
might be overly happy about it. That
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the whole thing about touring, and how you have to treat it like a job. You can't think it's all fun and games, because you'll get fired. That's the thing. Stuff like
Yes.
that, you'll get fired.
Yes. It
It
is a
doesn't matter. And
job.
and I think it's even true today. Like, I think this time is a different time, but it's still the same thing. No matter what. I mean, you're working. It's not a luxury thing. It's not a vacation. It's a great job, though. It's
Yeah.
it's like a definitely a job that anybody would want, but you still have to work.
You really have to love your instrument and love, the grind and working. You can't just go into this full hearted, like, oh, I'm going to go on tour and expect it to work out. You have
Yeah.
to really
Yep.
dig in. So
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. So as far as the younger musicians, you say it's a different time. There are more female musicians coming out. Do you think it's
hmm
easier for today's musicians, female musicians now, than it was back then, or it's about the same?
Well, I mean, I can only say it's easier for female musicians for recognition, to be recognized. I still think the hard work and the passion is still the same. You have to have the passion and the drive and the skill. Like, you have to want to be good. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm a female musician. I'm going to dress up sexy or whatever,"
Yeah.
but I can't really play.
Pose
But
with the
I'm still going
guitar
to
and
get that
can't play
job.
anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that today, yes, it's a lot easier to get recognized if you really market yourself well and really know how to put yourself out there. But it's still the same hard work, just like how it was back then. Back then, when I was touring, it was a little bit harder because we didn't have the platforms like
Hmm.
like there is now. Instagram, YouTube, maybe Facebook. I don't really see Facebook as being really a platform, but
Not for
more
anything.
like I mean, it is like in a community, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more of a community in Facebook, but I think like YouTube and
Instagram.
Instagram,
It's more
it's
for the
not.
music. It's more to get your face out there and what you
Yeah,
do out there.
you can definitely get recognized if you know how to use it. Where
Mm-hmm.
back then we didn't have those tools. It was more word of mouth. So when it came to word of mouth, you had to be in that clique. So like how we got the high five gig when we were in Salt and Pepper, it was a musician that toured with us in Europe that knew about us, and he had my number. So he called me up and he said, High Five is looking for you guys. They want to hire you. So they're looking for a female band and they want you because High Five was actually on tour with us in the tour of artists in Europe, I think, or in somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in Europe. They were touring with us, and they were playing on tracks because they were just starting out, and they saw us and they're like, we want a female band, we want a female band. So that's when the guy called me up and said, High Five's looking for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I let everybody know, hey, High Five's looking for us. So that's how we got in touch with them. So that, it wasn't like YouTube or anything like that. It was more word of
Exactly.
mouth. So it was just kind of like that thing, like a click. It's who you knew, kind of like, oh yeah, I saw you perform. I want to hire you, kind of thing. But now it's more
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely who you know.
yeah, it's still the same this way. It's you have those contacts, you keep those contacts. But
Mm-hmm.
if they see you, if somebody outside that doesn't know you sees you on YouTube or Instagram or sees your video doing a backing track thing or on stage or something, they're going to be like, oh yeah. And plus, there's so much
Yeah.
more. There's so much more out there, like the Fret Sisters, where we're exposing you.
Woo!
So that's the it's the exposure. I guess that's the word I was trying to look for. Is the exposure is much
Yes.
more valuable today and much more available to an artist or to an upcoming guitarist or musician or whatever than it was back then.
Yeah.
Back
And
then
with
it was
this,
more word of mouth.
yeah,
Hmm.
simple hashtag can get you in front of millions of eyes, you know?
Yep, yep.
And not only
Hmm.
do you have to have the skill level, you have to have the character, you have to be just generally a good person too. That also
Hmm.
will keep you a gig.
Yep,
So they'll,
exactly.
you know, yeah,
Yep. I
definitely.
mean,
So
yeah, I
go
mean
ahead.
that's the same thing back then. That's the same thing now. I mean, you could be really good, but you have to have that, having a good attitude and doing your homework and being up on if you play for an artist, making sure you know their stuff. It's just like a job.
Yes, yes. Being genuine and good person gets you a long way as well. Now,
Hmm.
what are you working on now? Are you doing any gigs now or are you touring, doing anything right now?
Right now, I play a lot locally in DC with my band, my main band, Pebble to Pearl. It's Pebb, as in
Yes.
Pebble to Pearl, TO. Um,
Awesome.
and we perform a lot around the city. I mean, we do a lot of gigs. I also do a lot of off gigs with local artists, or I might,
Awesome.
get called in to do. Sometimes a lot of artists come through the city. A lot of national artists come through the city, and I'll get a call to be like, "Hey, they need a guitarist for like from like the MD or something." So sometimes I'll have those
Yes.
type of gigs, which is nice to have, and then I played with some local artists and a couple jazz, kind of like one-off jazz gigs and stuff with other groups. But my main act is Pebble to Pearl, and that's more rock funk. We have originals and we do covers and stuff like that. So I have that, and then I have a single coming out that should be coming out soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, so kind of finalizing all that. So I'll have that come out. Yeah.
Yes, we'll definitely look forward to that. And that is Genny Jam. It's with the G, correct? So people definitely
Yeah.
know how to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yes.
So, is there anything else you have going on or want to tell the people that you're working on or doing or how to look you up?
Well, you can definitely look me up on Instagram. It's Genny Jam. It's G, like Gary, ENNYJAM. That's Genny Jam. It's with a G because my name's Genevieve, not Jennifer.
Yes. There you go.
so G, use that G, don't use that J. um, but that you can look me up on Instagram, and my YouTube is also youtube.com/Genny Jam. So you could see some of my work, some of the stuff that I do on the regular. But yes, that's how you can get in touch with me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we want to thank Genny Jam for taking the time to talk to us today, one of the founders of the Fretsisters. We thank you so much for coming in.
And
And
thank
again,
you.
look out for, you're very welcome. Again, look out for her single coming out. Follow her on all her social media outlets. Follow the Fretsisters, and don't forget to hashtag so you can be featured on our site as well, on our IG page. So again, we thank you for joining us on Between Frets. We want you all have a good night, and thank you again. Later.
Later.
What is good, everybody? This is Sean Marshall from Fretsisters. Make sure you follow us on social media in IG, Fretsisters, and like us on Facebook with Fretsisters1. You will catch up with us behind the scenes, get all the tea on what us founders are doing individually outside of Fretsisters.